Hello everyone. They were praying for my downfall, but I am an atheist, so I am back. Stronger than ever. Took a 1-week vacation from streaming. That's it. But I like to be dramatic. It's just as hot as it always was. Somehow I only feel it when I'm streaming. I don't know what it is. It's the stage fright of it all. And as always, streaming is riddled with a lot of technical difficulties. Because YouTube and Twitch are very small companies that, of course, indie companies that, they're trying their best. But sometimes, it's hard. It's hard to make software work. It's really hard to make software work. So sometimes they have a hard time doing that. As evidenced by the fact that I'm technically not live on YouTube right now, according to YouTube. Not according to the live stream that I am literally able to watch, but I am apparently not live on YouTube according to YouTube's YouTube Studio, specifically. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Feels good to be back to streaming. Yeah, very enjoyable experience. So that's all streaming is really about, debugging the stream itself, not doing anything on stream. Nobody cares about doing anything on stream. We're just here to debug the stream itself. Isn't that great? Okay, anyway, I think YouTube is working. I think YouTube Studio is literally fucking lying to me. I am going to double check that monetization is off because they have disabled it sometimes without telling me for no reason. It looks like it's on, unless it's lying to me about that as well. That's a lot of errors. It looks good. Looks good. I'm going to go with I am currently live and monetization is on. Hope that's the truth. Because that's not what's being reflected by YouTube Studio right now. Even though, again, I can literally see the stream happening, even though I'm not on it. Oh, now I am. Okay. All right. Today, what am I doing today? Today I am adding scripting to my terminal, and also, therefore, to the shell, really. Shell is the scriptable one. But by doing so, I should be able to also add it to my operating system, and that's going to allow me to do a bunch of stuff because scripts can be useful. And most importantly, we're not doing bash. Bash is the fucking worst thing ever invented. I'm always reluctant to give out that title. But you know what is the best thing ever invented when it comes to scripting languages? Lisp. So I'm going to be using that for scripting. I'm going to try. I think it's a good option as someone who has a month of experience in Lisp. So that's the plan. Is my microphone? You are right. It is actually. Thank you for telling me that. Also, hello, IceDave and Constantly. My mic is overdriven. Yeah. I've just been told that. All right. Let me be quiet for a second while I fix it. Where's the option here? All right, is that... No, that's still too loud. Okay. How is that? That's still a bit loud, isn't it? Hold on. Let me maybe lower it here. All right, how's that? That sounds... Okay, what if I'm talking a little bit louder? Still loud, right? Right now, still loud? Can we get... I left my headphones in the other room. Much better? Okay, thank you. Sounds okay, that's good. There is a chance that I maybe messed with the physical knob for the gain on the microphone. Since I haven't been using it, I disconnected it. Although that's kind of unlikely. And again, okay, YouTube actually shows that I'm live now, which it didn't before. But yeah, streaming software is kind of glitchy, so I wouldn't be surprised if it just like something changed internally. I don't know. Anyway, okay, sounds good now. I do see it clipping, but for the longest time, it clipping here on OBS didn't actually mean it clipping. So, I don't know. I still do see it a little bit. So, keep forgetting where the setting is. It's at 100% now. It was higher before. All right. I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay. So, back to what I was saying. Adding scripting to terminal, shell, operating system through the shell. Now here's the interesting thing. My original plan was to use neither the operating system nor the terminal today, but still do this thing. That plan may have changed a little bit in the last hour. See, the thing is, the operating system used to have a lot of random ass crashes for the past couple days. I've been doing a lot of refactoring when it comes to like the scheduler, because it used to be process based, scheduled processes. Now I have threads, so I needed to make it thread based. And even though most processes have one thread only, still that change that require moving a lot of things around, and I broke something. You know what? Let me use the system's like drawing feature to explain what I broke. Essentially, in part of the refactor, what I did is I changed how I allocate the stack of the process. Just unifying it, because it used to be done manually. Now I have a stack manager class that does it for me. Class. It's a file. See, we don't have classes. But anyway, here's the thing. This is the maybe I need to add a little bit of smoothing to this thing. Look how smooth that line is. I feel like the Primogen right now. Holy fuck, look at that. Don't look at the other ones. Just look at that one. Anyway, this is your memory, right? This is address 0, and this is the top of your memory. When you allocate something on that memory, you allocate it, let's say that you allocate this section of memory, you're given back this pointer. And then you fill it in like this. You start at the pointer that you're given until you reach the memory that you were given. You try not to go outside of that. Even though it might not crash, it's probably not what you want. And you will be eventually prevented from continuing infinitely. However, the stack of a process works the other way around. It should start here and grow downwards. But I'm allocating the stack as well when I create a new process. And I knew that this pointer here that I'm given is not the one I have to give you. I have to give you this one. Except instead of adding, I was subtracting. So really what I was giving you is this. But what I was allocating is this. Which means some of my processes were overriding other processes' memories while also reading it as if it were part of their stack. This was leading to a lot of inconsistent behavior. Sometimes windows would open by themselves. Sometimes I would try to open a window like this, which opens a full screen window, and what it would do is open two windows, one of which was very small, the other one was big. Launching processes in the terminal crashed almost always, but not always. All of this, by the way, happens sometimes, not always. And yeah, I realized my mistake and I fixed it. But all that happened a year ago. Jesus Christ. An hour ago, I fixed it. So, by the way, like, actually, for a while, until last night, I didn't even realize that these kind of things were happening. The system was working mostly fine. Yeah, there was occasional crashes, but it was mostly fine. Just last night, it completely fell apart. And this is where I was obligated to look into this issue. I was actually doing more bug fixing, completely unrelated. Other small little annoying bugs, but nothing major. There is a major bug, actually. With my allocator, I think at some point it just stops working. I don't know what's happening there. I've been debugging other things, so I haven't had time to fix that, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, last night it just completely fell apart, so this afternoon I looked into it, I fixed it. But really my plan was that I would not be using the operating system because it was in an unusable state. But now it does work, so maybe we can bring it into the operating system. But here's the thing. What we're adding scripting to is not the terminal, it's not the operating system, it's the shell. And the shell is part of my standard library for the system, which is the library that I use for all my projects, including the cross-platform ones. So I was planning on working outside of the system just because I'm able to. Because all the stuff that I'm working on is part of this library and not part of the system directly. But now the system is stable again, so I think, wait, hold on. There is one thing I didn't try, technically. Though this is something that I both broke and fixed today, and it couldn't launch processes from the terminal. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Alright. Speaking of which, I said I wasn't going to be using my terminal or my operating system. So I just explained why I wasn't going to be using my operating system, but the terminal looks like this. This is the second iteration of my terminal. The first version of it was in C++, which is a language that I despise. I absolutely hate C++ because it's trying to be both a low-level and high-level programming language. And you know what happens when you try to be literally everything? You do nothing well. It's good at absolutely zero of those ways of programming. Are they called paradigms? Not really. I don't know what it's called. Those two levels. It's bad at both. It's bad at both, right? So, for example, you're in a constructor. You have a pointer to the object that you're currently constructing. You want to do something with that pointer. Don't. Because once you're out of the constructor, that pointer is not going to be valid anymore. The object is going to be copied, and the copy is the valid one. So the original pointer, bad. That exact issue is why I rewrote the terminal in C. Because that's ridiculous. But call me Unity the way I'm about to deprecate something that isn't even finished. Because this terminal will be going away. And we'll be replacing it, ridiculous as it might sound, with a text editor. Might sound ridiculous, but look at them. Can you see? They're very similar to each other. Now, thank you, Peter. Hello, welcome. They are very similar to each other. Now, I have to say, the reason that the input on my terminal is down here, whereas in normal terminals, well, you can do whatever you want, really. But normally a terminal would have it up here, and then as you write, you know, it would move down the input. Eventually it would reach the bottom when you fill out this entire thing, but that's not really how it starts, whereas mine is always at the bottom. This is actually a limitation of like text rendering that's happening here. Yeah, the way that I'm doing it here is like absolutely atrocious. It's really, really bad. So that will be going away. But this thing of moving the input separate from the output, I might keep it. And again, look at how similar the text editor and the terminal are to each other. The reason is that what is a terminal? If we don't get pedantic about it, please don't get pedantic about it. But what is a terminal? It is a text-based interface for interacting with the operating system. A text-based interface. You type text, you get out text. Even if you do a terminal user interface, a TUI, Let me specify a little bit more, maybe. Even if you do a terminal user interface, this is all text. Now, thanks to Unicode, it can look particularly nice. You can even have emojis, technically, I'm pretty sure, if you want. That's not a thing that I have. We only have ASCII, 8-bit characters, nothing more. But all of this is text. All of it. All of it. These lines are text. Some of these user interface might even allow you to copy and paste the line. Well, not paste, but copy the lines. So we have a text-based interface with which you interact with the operating system. And then you have a text editor, which I built. It's very basic. I've worked on it for like 2 streams, and besides doing a little bit of bug fixing between the 2 streams, I haven't touched it since. I wanted to develop it on stream, so I waited. But I based it off of this little bitch over here, Emacs. Emacs Emacs, for the love of God, this is embarrassing for you. What the fuck? I'm trying to resize you, man. What the hell was that? Anyway, Emacs is a great text processor, text editor that was built by people that had never used a computer before. So everything in Emacs is text-based. So here's what we have. Let me go into Z first, right? So if I show you Z, I have a file browser, I have a text. Well, I even have like a little, hold on. If I close all of these, I'm pretty sure I get like a splash screen. It's empty. Pretty sure I do get it if I open a new window, perhaps? No? I'm wrong. VS Code has a splash screen, not Z. Okay, never mind. But yeah, I have this here, right, which is a browser for my project that I currently have open. I have this here, which is a shell, and I have this here, which is the actual text editing. All of these things are individual UI elements that they built specifically to look like this. And it's cool, it looks good. But there is Emacs, which all of the same kind of things that you can see, obviously it's not exactly the same, but now it is kind of the same. Everything in it is text. Now, if I remember how to go back... Fuck. There. Okay. I haven't used Emacs in 2 weeks as well, so I don't remember how it works. It is incredibly unintuitive. That's what I mean by it was made by people that have never used a computer before. That's a joke, obviously. But it was made in the 1970s, using 1970s mentality, with a 1970s UX, and has not been touched since. And if you try to tell the Emacs community that this might be a bad thing, and that, you know, it makes their software hard to use and not user-friendly, and it takes something that's genuinely a great way of working and makes it suck so fucking much, they will grab a shotgun and shoot you. Essentially. So, oh well. I like the way that Emacs works, but I don't like the way that Emacs works. I like the underlying philosophy of it, which I copied in my text editor. I don't like the UX of Emacs. It sucks! Oh my god. But what is the cool thing that I like about it? Literally everything that we're seeing here is text. Even this. I mean to do that. Even this. You can see the cursor blinking around the image right now. Look at that. And if I put my cursor back 1 character, there we have it. This is 1 character. Look at the size of it. It's an empty character. There's nothing there. But you can see it takes up the exact space as this. This is pretty much considered a character, I guess. I don't know about the internals of Emacs. Maybe this is not how it works. This is just my perception of it, looking at it without having that much experience. But I do know that everything is text-based. So maybe the details of what I'm saying are not correct. But what I'm saying, I do believe on a general note, if we don't get pedantic, please don't get pedantic. is correct. Right, so what that means is that this image is text. Again, I keep clicking it, and it actually does something. These links are text. This is text. This is text. This is text with images. And cool thing about it is that because everything is text, plugins for Emacs all work with buffers, which are these things, right? These buffers. I don't know what else to call them. And they are all aware of how a buffer works and how the buffer, capital T, capital B, the buffer works. And that means that any plugin that you install on Emacs and any built-in functionality to Emacs and all of that stuff all speak the same language, which is text processing. And that means you get what video games call emergent behavior. You literally get emergent behavior, like this is fucking Skyrim or something. In the sense that you can have two plugins that were not developed to work together, and you can have them work together simply because they're both speaking the same language, pretty much. Very similar to what, everything is a file philosophy in Unix and my own OS. Means that you have the standardized way inside of the operating system of doing something, which is the file-based. Resources in the operating system are exposed through files and folders, while resources and everything in Emacs is exposed through text. And by the way, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of interoperability between those two concepts even. But what does that mean? It means that Emacs is a text-based way of interacting with whatever you're trying to interact with. Text files, code. A shell has its own shell. Besides having a normal shell as well, but it has its own shell on top of the regular shell. And as I've said in the past, Emacs is what the terminal wants to be. Emacs is what the terminal should have been. So, I don't like Emacs. It's clunky, old, antiquated, and it's GNU Emacs, and GNU stands for GNU is not usable. So, yeah, I don't like Emacs. But I do like this philosophy. I copied it for my text editor, and that means with very little changes, I should be able to repurpose my text editor's code base into being a terminal. Again, already we have a very obvious visual similarity, right, between the two. And besides that, because of the way that they work, this is just a text buffer that programs that the shell prints to. This is just a text buffer that right now the editor, the user prints to, but we can change who prints to it. We can control who prints to it. This is a input where the user types commands. This is also an input where the user types commands, but I purposefully limited it to only being able to open files. That's the only thing that it's capable of doing. You don't even type a command, you just type the file that you're trying to open. And it doesn't work. Eesh, I think I changed something in the key. Okay, yeah, the key bindings. I changed them. Right now, that's the only thing it's able to handle. But we're going to add more functionality, obviously. But I think you can see how the two are very similar and why I'm planning to replace the terminal with this. And the important thing about it, similar code base. Also, I don't feel like showing the code base. I've been explaining this whole thing for like 10 minutes now. It's time to move on. I've literally been just yapping for 30 minutes at this point. It's time to move on. But the code base of the terminal and the code base of the text editor, incredibly similar. You have UI, text processing, command processing. Very, very similar. So joining the two should be a smart choice. Also, because of the way that they're implemented, the text editor is just a lot more stable than the terminal. Like again, if I wanted to put the input line here instead of here, I could. And if I want to put it here, I could also do that. So yeah, what we're going to be doing is adding a shell to the text editor, and in so doing, we're going to be using that as the terminal instead of the old terminal. But the first thing we're going to do is work on these colors. Because how did I choose the color for this and the color for this? Like that. That's how I chose it. I just pressed the keyboard and a hex color came out. And I ended up liking them, but they kind of clash with each other. They're not super beautiful. So we're going to be working on that first things first, because we're going to be working on this thing a lot today. All right. UBX, user bad experience. That's exactly what GNU has. GNU no user experience. GNU is not usable. Whatever you want to call it. That's what GNU stands for. Anyway, another domain-specific language. We're doing Lisp, which is great for that type of stuff, actually. By the way, another thing. I finished my Lisp interpreter. Version 1. Very basic, very simple. Doesn't even technically have functions. It has lambdas and labels, which I thought labels were functions, but they're not. I'm gonna go into that when I actually start working on the scripting language, which isn't immediately. So we'll get to that. But yeah, I finished a replica of Lisp 1.5 pretty much. From there, I want to develop my own dialect of Lisp. That reminds me of Borland Turbo C. Borland. That's an interesting name. I thought you said Borderland at first. Borland Turbo C. The colors, right? A floppy disk. That's nice. Do we have any Oh wow. Yeah, that's similar. The bottom one. But I'm replacing the bottom one with a shade similar to this one. I'm gonna go into a color palette, I'm gonna put in this color, and I'm gonna take a shade or another color that goes well with this one to put it here. Also, all of this will be customizable, and now that we're adding a scripting language to both the text editor and the shell, we will be it will be possible to customize. The 90s ASCII UI apps, yeah. The old way of doing UI. Which is, by the way, like what half of Linux is this Linux distro installers look like, by the way. The second you get away from the two friendly user acquainted, they're acquaintances, they're not friendly. The second you get away from Ubuntu and Debian, the average Linux installer looks like this. So, in 2026, mind you. Borderland 2 framework was amazing. Funny to see everyone reinvent it recently. That's another thing. I was thinking, because I want to be able to do TUIs in my terminal, of course, and in the text editor and all that stuff. So we will need a library for it. I was thinking of how to do TUIs, but I never got around to doing it. I don't really have them. Now there is one feature, by the way, which it never made it into the new, now old terminal. I really feel like Unity deprecating shit before it's even finished. By the way, Unity like once created a new multiplayer system, and then it was in beta, and then they deprecated it, and they didn't really have an alternative for it. So I don't really know how you do multiplayer in Unity nowadays. Not sure that they know how to do multiplayer in Unity nowadays, but it doesn't really matter. The old terminal used to be able to handle... Oh, that's broken. This is an example of like drawing to specific places to do a TUI, right? This functionality will have to also port to the text editor. But it used to be able to display actual structured data. So similar to the new shell, I can't show it because that's in the old C++ editor, which I think I fully deleted off the code base. And I never ported it to this one, and now I'm moving away from this one, so I'm just going to port it to the text editor directly once the time comes. Yeah, it's gone. But similar to what the new shell does, pretty much, which is like, yeah, this kind of stuff, like tables. I call the other ones documents, like a single entry into a table, just with like number, 0, name, gem file, .lock. Okay, something like that. But yeah, my old terminal used to be able to do this. The new terminal was supposed to, but now it's the old terminal. Now it's the old terminal. The new terminal is now the old terminal. The new terminal will be able to do this as well once I port it to that. Alright, so that's the plan. But I do want to look at TurboVision. What an incredible name. A modern, I cannot speak. A modern PERT. My brain just genuinely disconnects from my tongue and they just act independently when I'm streaming. I don't know what happens. A modern port of TurboVision 2.0. The classic framework for text-based user interface is now cross-platform and with Unicode support. This is not something we're gonna have, by the way. Not for a long time. Okay, cool. Was there a reason they used colors so bright? Because again, the reason I chose these colors, I literally just went like this. But like, what's their excuse? Well, actually, they have an excuse. They probably had 8-bit colors, so never mind. Or 16-bit colors for a while. Yeah, never mind. What the fuck am I talking about? They have an actual excuse. I just completely forgot about it. 4-bit? Oh yeah, 16 colors. True. The Terry Davis way of doing things. They have emojis. Holy shit! Look at that. Now, I do give old ways of doing things a lot of shit, but there are genuinely good ideas in this type of thing. Text-based user interfaces. I didn't really see the point when I was doing the terminal, right? When I was working on the terminal, like, properly, the one that is mostly now deprecated, well, it's fully gone, and the one that I'm deprecating now, both of those, I was thinking, like, do I want TUI support, or... I came to a conclusion, yes, it's genuinely useful to have a text user interface. When you're doing SSH, very useful. And it's not like I have SSH, mind you, but this is supposed to be a distributed operating system, which means sometimes you were going to want to access something that is on a different computer, whether it's through SSH or something else. You want to be able to do it with a text-based user interface, because you're doing it through the terminal. It's the only way of doing it. We're not talking remote desktop. So, yeah, it's a genuinely useful thing to have. Everything is a file. I give Unix a lot of shit, but everything is a file is a genuinely great thing. Plan 9 took it even further. Linux took it a little bit backwards. Oh well. I'm taking it... Well, I'm trying to take it a little bit further. I'm trying to fix the issues that it has. But I have to say I haven't really mapped every resource in the system to files. I haven't really kept up with it all that much. Now with scripting, I'm probably going to want to do that a lot more if I add scripting. The same way that standardizing resources in the operating system through files and standardizing the resources in Emacs through buffers, through text, is a genuinely great idea. What I don't like is the usability of these programs, but the overall underlying way of doing things, incredible. Incredible. I like the idea of bind mounting network namespaces to implement a network proxy. You know, I never figured out how to do the network proxy thing in Plan 9. I tried for like a second, to be honest. I don't remember how that was supposed to work. But Plan 9 is genuinely great. Everything is a file, like truly everything is a file in Plan 9. I really wish Plan 9 had been the one that Linux is based on instead of Unix. But hey, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm doing. I swear I got like even small stuff like drawing windows. That's where I got it from. By the way, I don't have Plan 9 installed, which kind of sucks. Are you serious? I have a virtual machine manager, but I don't have any virtual machines. So that's interesting. Anyway, when I get a little bored, I'll install Plan 9. Alright. Let me start with this then. Colors. Colors. Alright, so I'm going to be working outside of the operating system. I mean, I can technically work inside of it now if I want to. I had the big limitation of it's literally falling apart, but now it's not anymore. So all right. Cursor color. Okay, here it is. So this is the buffer color, the main one, the one that I want to keep, and this is the one that I'm getting rid of. All right, so we're going to take this, we're going to go into a color palette. It's a tutorial for a color palette. That's a joke, right? Okay, that is the same color. For a second there, I thought it wasn't. It is. Alright, so how do I make this one save it first? Oh, I see. That's what save means. Lock. That's what I wanted. Okay, I wanted to lock it so that I can change the other ones, but keep this one. Now, how do I regenerate the other colors to match this one? Press the spacebar. Thank you. Can I tell you the type of color palette that I want? Because this is not it. Actually, the default options were the best so far. How do I choose? Generate. This is a pro feature. I have to pay for this? I have to pay to choose. I'm going to go to a less greedy company. Oh, they've changed this one too. Great. It's wonderful. Alright, so lock it and then generate. And then I can tell you to pick a color harmony. That's what I want. We can do an... What happened to my lock? What happened to my lock, man? I had a color locked. I figured it would stay locked. My bad. God. Why does all software work so poorly nowadays? Oh my god. Yeah, I don't like this. Oh yeah, that looks very... Oh, I see. Random breaks the color harmony that I chose. Right. Right. And the color harmony that I choose breaks the lock that I put in. Holy fuck. And yet, again, this is the least greedy of the two that I've tried, because the other one wanted me to do pro for this. Imagine how shitty your product has to be for me to call Adobe the non-greedy option. Which obviously I did as a joke, but imagine. Why no streams for so long? I was taking a break for the weekend. Write your own at this point. It would be faster than learning how to work with this shit. No, the thing is, I've been using the Adobe color palette for a long time, and it didn't look like this. And it was genuinely easy to use. Now they've broken it. Are we surprised? Are we surprised? Software gets updated, no longer works like people like it. Now it's shit. Oh, and by the way, probably have to pay for it. Classic. Anyway, what if I don't like the colors that you gave me? Like, there is some wiggle room for the... These aren't even analogous colors, mind you. Wait. When I tell you I want analogous... I see how it works, okay. So I have to base it off of this one. Oh my god, that is stupid! I didn't realize this is the basis for color harmony rules. Can I change it? I can change which one is the base color. Okay. Oh my god. I cannot overstate how simple this whole thing used to be. Look how they massacred my boy. Look at what they've done to my boy. You know what? When I'm bored one day, we're just gonna make a color palette, alright? Like, fuck this shit. Anyway, I'm picking this color. That's gonna go here. Let's see what that's like. Very similar. I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't love it. Should I try going darker? Is there an easy way for me to go? Not an easy way, but not an awful way. Maybe this one's too contrasting. Can I go back? Yes. Yes, that I can do. Alright, this is my original color, right? Let's try this one. How about we just, I genuinely didn't think this was gonna take this long. It's a color palette. It's ridiculous. Anyway. Yeah, this might do for now, honestly, like, whatever. You can technically customize it. Again, this whole thing is supposed to be customizable. It isn't right now, it's supposed to be customizable. Now, I do need a contrasting color. Alright, so behave. Why is this no longer the, Why can I no longer choose, actually? I'm no longer on a... I am no longer on the color harmony that I chose. Lord. What have I done to deserve this shit? Oh, but I am. Still on this color. This time it stayed, right? 362872. Yeah, that's the same color. Alright, maybe I'll use this one then. For this little thing. Which is very ugly, but whatever. Just an indicator for where the current buffer is. Because you can have multiple buffers, by the way. That's another cool thing of doing things like this. I have to say this has a crash, so I'm not going to be doing it a whole lot today. But you can have multiple buffers very easily in this type of code editor. Which means, technically, you can split the terminal very easily. Which some terminals allow you to do, some terminals don't. Oh, I thought I split it in 4 because I saw this here, but no, I split it. See? So this kind of thing you can have here as well. Although I did it the other way around, but still. Same thing. Some terminals have this kind of behavior, some don't. Another thing, technically, it doesn't have text selection yet, but it's going to make it very easy if you want to just literally mess with the output, like delete the output. Some terminals do that. I saw the Plan 9 terminal actually does that. You can just like mess with the output that's already been output by the programs that we're running. You can just mess with it. There's no real reason to do that as far as I can think of right now, but you can. And technically, because this is also a text editor, you can do that. So yeah, using this thing, like I said, Emacs is what the terminal should have been. And my thing is what Emacs should have been. That's a big claim. It's been in development for 2 days, so no. But it will be. So, yeah. Feel good about this decision. I've written a grand total of 0 lines of code, if you don't count the change in the color. So. Alright. Let's try that color, and I chose this color and then this color for the text that says current on it. A little bit darker than what it is right now. Let's see what that looks like. Absolute shit. Wow, look at that piss green. I was gonna say yellow, but it's not really yellow, but whatever, piss is green now. Who cares? Can we make this one the base color? And then choose compound? Thank you for changing the base color. Now, I've officially lost track of how this thing works. But you know what's really funny? This color is very similar to the color that was supposed to be the base color, but it's not the same one. 736126 736A26. Incredibly similar, but it's not the same color. How'd you manage that? Like, genuinely, how'd you manage that? Great job, Adobe. Common L for you. Alright, you had one piece of software that works well and isn't super expensive for no goddamn reason, and you broke it for no goddamn reason. But at least you're not charging for it, so in the grand scheme of things, it's the best you can aim for. Okay. Are we good? Can I maybe add some padding to this? And try anyway. I don't think that padded anything. Wait, no, it did pad, but the background color is inside. So, yeah, never mind. It doesn't really do anything. UI library could use a little bit of work too. Anyway. Alright, looks more decent now. Now, how do I want to approach this thing? Do I want to add scripting to the text editor? Or do I want to add the shell to it? I probably want to add the shell to the text editor first. Which means, right now the text editor assumes one way of working with text, which is directly writing the text, being able to delete the text, and eventually more things that I don't have, like copy and pasting text, all of that stuff. Selection. That isn't really valid for this. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Emacs has a concept of modes. And a major mode is essentially the type of thing that you're working on, and the minor mode is... Again, why can I not resize a window? Right, because GNU is not usable. That's why. Now I can. Ridiculous piece of software we got going on right now. Anyway, why did I even open it in the first place? Wiped my whole brain. I don't remember what I was going to do anymore. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody. No, yeah, Emacs has modes, which, if I'm not mistaken, a major mode is Specialized facilities for working on a particular file type. Okay, so not quite. The way that I thought it worked is like, okay, the shell itself is a mode, but not really. Not really how it works. So, yeah, that is how I want it to work for mine, though. I want you to choose the current behavior. Do I want to call it a behavior, perhaps? Yeah, but behavior. The current behavior of the buffer. By the way, is my brightness was not 100%, even though it was at 95, so I barely see the difference, but it's very dark. Feels very dark. I'm just gonna... I don't know why, but it feels very dark. Anyway. Code a key to randomize the colors and output the numbers. Say less. There's 5 minutes to the next ad. Fucking say less. Default? This one, right? And this one, yeah. Alright, wait, I'm supposed to copy that. Then do that. There you go. Then, what key do I want to use? Let's do Alt-Enter. I need to initialize our RNG. I need to initialize an RNG thingy. Is it math random or math RNG? Yes. RNG next 32 using an object called RNG that I'm going to use, and then we're going to make sure that current color has alpha set to full, and then we're going to break. Then we're going to create this RNG object to be in the main function is perfectly fine. RNGT, RNG equals to RNG init, no, RNG start, no, RNG seed, yes, that's how you do it. Using the current time as the seed. What the hell? Why not? Till we find one we like. There's no need for LLX. Just current color, output it as a hexadecimal. There you go. It doesn't feel right to have colors output in lowercase. And while we're at it, there you go. Whew. Most of them are gonna be absolutely awful, but there you go. And this one's nice. This one's nice. Anyway, it has disco mode now. Cool. That was very useful. That was very important to do. Anyway, right, so haven't really coded anything new for this whole thing in 2 weeks, so give me a second. Okay, we have a buffer context, this thing. This structure here is the one that tells us everything we need to know about the current buffer that we're working with, such as which file it maps to the buffer that is actually being drawn, and text field info, which is used for, well, it actually contains the buffer, and it's also used for like cursor color, whether it's multi-line or not. This is for the UI library to be able to handle it. Which section is selected to be able to share this information between the program and the UI library, because the UI library is the one that actually handles like the text input and all that stuff. UI library is also made by me, so yeah. And it just has a pointer to the buffer, which is this one, pretty much. But we're going to have to decide then the type of program, of the type of whatever is running right now in this buffer. Is it a text buffer that you can edit, in which case these options are useful, or is it a shell buffer that you can't edit, or is it controlled by a different program? I need to think of how to structure that, and there's an ad starting on Twitch, so I'll be back in 3 minutes. Alright, I'm back. I took a little bit longer because I opened Twitter and I saw that Bethesda has officially confirmed that they're doing a Fallout 3 and New Vegas remaster, which was already known, but now it's officially confirmed, so I'm very happy about that. Great. but they're not announcing dates just yet. Just shadow drop it next week and it's fine. Don't worry about it. Anyway. What was I even doing? Man. Living in Madrid makes you wish for a nuclear winter. Swear to God. It's fucking insane in here. Alright, right. So I was saying, this structure here controls the stuff that's currently in the buffer that's being displayed in the text editor. But these are things for a text editor. It contains the path of the file that is currently open, a buffer for the file that's currently open, yeah, that'll probably stay, and then a text field info to display that to the UI library. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm actually allocating this thing. I'm allocating this thing. That's very interesting. Yep. All right. Every time I create a buffer, I allocate one of those structures to hold its information. I could also technically just use something else. Instead of this structure, one specifically made for the shell, right? What would the shell need? Shell context would be a pointer to the shell itself, which we can include right now, but I don't really need to, because I'm going to want to standardize this code a little bit more. So let me just make it a void pointer just for the sake of typing this whole thing. Now we still need this object, because that's the one that again maps whatever text your program produces into the UI library. And that is really all we need. We need to pipe the shell from here to here, which is done while configuring. Nothing else off the top of my head. But what this means is that, yeah, I want to have two different, I don't want to call them modes, because that's a word that Emacs use, and it's a word that isn't really what I thought it was. It is what I thought it was, it's just more limited than I thought it was. Right, so Emacs just uses it to mean the overall language that the current text buffer speaks. Whereas instead I'm like, the source of the text buffer. So do I want to call it a buffer source, maybe? A buffer source sounds like a good plan for calling it something. Okay, so the text processor, which by the way right now is called Brain, because it used to be called Brain Code. The first version of the text editor was called, or code editor, it was a code editor, was called Brain Code, as opposed to vibe code. The opposite of vibe coding is brain coding, of course. But that was for a code editor. This is a text processor. It's meant to do code editing as well, but it's not primarily going to be a code editor. It's primarily a text editor. So Brain Code doesn't make sense anymore. Right now I'm calling it Brain. I don't necessarily love that name, but I do kind of love it for like the code base. Like the executable itself is called Brain, and then depending on where you launch it from, it's either a text editor or a terminal. So maybe Brain will stay. It's also the brain of the operating system. And just like that, it grew on me. Alright, Brain it is. Now, a buffer source. A buffer source is going to contain this stuff, which, like I said, is standardized to make the UI library aware of the text that goes in the buffer, and probably some sort of identifier to tell you which one of these objects this one is, right? So this is a header for this and this, but that means I need to have some sort of type to identify like what it is. I want to make it extensible. The entire point of the text editor being like this is that you can make plugins really easily as long as they talk text. The language that they speak is the language of text. This language, this thing, as long as they conform to this, you can make them do whatever as long as they use this header. So I don't want to hard code the types, right? Right now we have this buffer context, which I'm going to rename to like file context probably. And then we have the shell context. These are two built-in types, but then I want you to have your own types if you want to have like install plugins and whatnot. So int type. Well, one. Because like type 1 is file context, type 2 is shell context, type 0 is invalid, type 3 is an extension that you installed. Yeah, I'll probably do it like that. And then I'll have an enum that just is used to like as a helper, but really just maps to an int. Source types. Source invalid, source file, source shell, source built-in count is one that we can use to know how many there are. 0, 1, 2, 3. Which is wrong, because there's an invalid. So it's not the count. Never mind, let's forget that one. Alright, so a source type. Alright, so this is going to be the header for any program that takes control over a buffer, or anything that takes control over a buffer. It's going to be called a buffer source. And we can call it the header here, as well as here. You implement the one that you want, and what's wrong with this? Redefinition of struct shell. Can you tell me where it's first defined? Wait, is my shell's actual... The shell itself has a shell context, I'm pretty sure, so... Yeah, again, I'm renaming these. So, buffer context, rename symbol to file source. Oh, I put a semicolon there, so that's file source. There we go. And the shell context, we're going to call it the shell source. Or source. Do the other way around. Hold on. Source file. Source type file. Fuck it. Source type shell. I don't love that name. But yeah, it differentiates them well enough. Source file sounds like something else. That's not really what I want. It's a source type file, and it contains these two properties that other ones do not. All right. Okay, cool. So we should start with an empty buffer. Or should we start with a text buffer by default? What do you do, Emacs? Default. I'm asking Emacs for advice, my god. Unintuitive piece of shit. It just duplicates the current buffer. Okay. Useful. Useful. No, I'm just gonna open, by default, a source type file. And then you can change it to a shell file instead. All right. So, TF info is now actually in the header. And it's also going to be renamed, but I'll do that in a minute. Let me fix these compilation errors. That's header tf info, and see another one here. Header tf info. Okay. And then take this tf info, and we're changing its name to text context. Well, text info. Text info is fine. Okay. So, what this means is that you will be able to open different things, like a shell or a text file. If you open a text file, then that's controlled by this context, which will tell us like where the text file is mapped to in the file system, as well as loading the text file into a buffer. And if it's a shell, instead, it will create a buffer itself. It will need a buffer, I'm pretty sure. And it will, instead of having a path, it will have a shell, which is itself a pointer to a little context thingy. Now, it also means I should be able to start moving some of this stuff, like all the shell behavior, outside of the terminal. Outside of the main file. Right, so since these are supposed to be separate programs from the way that not separate programs in the sense of separate executables, just separate programs in the sense of their own self-contained little thing. So, shell.h should be fine, even though I have something else called shell.h, it's in a completely different place. Right, so you're going to create for us a void pointer create shell. No, there's already a function called that. Brain create shell. I'm going to also be moving the text stuff away, so file.h, brain create file, source, file source, and shell source, since I'm calling them sources, as in the source of where the information that's displayed on the buffer comes from. Okay. How long is this error gonna stay here? It actually doesn't go away on its own. It feels significantly hotter in here than when I started, and it sucks because it's supposed to get colder, not hotter. Anyway. This here this here is configuring the current text buffer, and it does so in for the file specifically. So maybe this is part of that function. Brain create file source. It's gonna do all of this thing. It's going to need to include an allocateur, and for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to use zalloc. It's also going to need to include a file buffer.h. Thank you for breaking entirely when you were supposed to autocomplete the name of that file. And finally, the source type file, all of this stuff needs to be moved away. So this actually goes here. So the buffer thing goes here. include string, string.h, and include file buffer.h. I don't know why it doesn't autocomplete this thing. Is that not the name? File buffer.h. Files. It's files buffer.h. Alright, and I will need a brain.h. Why is my folder empty? Oh, it's not. It's just open. Okay. Jesus, that scared me. And this one is going to contain the buffer source and all this stuff. Yeah, so about... Yeah, nah, that won't work. I'll make it an integer for the type. And you also need to include a text field info, which comes from... I'm assuming the UI library. Yeah, it comes from the UI library. Since it's again the way that the UI library talks to the text through this type over here. All right, so I'm going to create a new function called register source type that is just going to give us, well, a new source type, a new ID for this type over here. And it's going to do so with a source count starting at 1. 0 is invalid. Do that and then advance it. Cool. Okay, now you need to include your own header. So brain.h. Then this one is moving over to the shell, where we will need to import these two things as well. Well, no, we don't need strings, but we need to include the other one. So brain.h. That also needs to be included here. Brain.h. Files buffer, but that's redundant now. And you need to return something, so you need to return this buffer context. Right, and then there's the command buffer. The command buffer is... Oh, I still have it open, okay. It's this little thing down here. It's similar to the Emacs mini buffer. I haven't really decided if the terminal is going to use this or just like traditional input. I don't know. But it uses this source type file, so I'll need to include those two anyway. File, and shell. Wait. How does it know which one of the two shells to include here? Because it's supposed to include anything from this directory and anything from this directory. Both of them have a subdirectory called shell with a file called shell.h. So how do you know? See how when I renamed the file it didn't change? Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. Alright, almost done with this. Hello, WAD. Welcome. Alright, this is the final thing. We're going to generate a new context for this, which we're going to do with the text-based create text. What did I call it? Oh my god. Create file source. Brain create file source. And that is going to be what we put here. Everything is not done. Undefined reference to create file source. This one, right? Oh, wait. I'm building files manually, so I need to include these two. File source.c and shell source.c. There is no .c. All right, there we have it again. Everything should work as before. There we go. It works as before. I forgot the input key to move from this mini buffer to this buffer. Isn't it sad that I complain about Emacs not being easy to use, and then I don't remember my own way of doing things? It was probably Control-Tab. I don't remember. Also, the scrolling needs a little bit of work. Sensitivity is not great. I'm moving my mouse like a lot, and it's barely scrolling. Alright. Alright, so this is the text-based one, but of course I want the shell-based one. So, right now it should be easy to not choose which one gets open, not clean up the resources I use. Who cares? Just create the shell source, and we'll implement that. So, in order to do this, to create a file, what we do is we allocate the memory for the source type. Instead of file, it's going to be shell. Then we're creating a buffer for it where the text is going to be written. So far, so good. However, this one is not going to have, it is not going to have a placeholder. It is going to map this buffer to the UI library, so the UI library knows to render it. It allows multi-line, it has a cursor that is white, and then it needs to also, of course, create a shell. Is that editor or OS? So that is an editor that is turning into a shell terminal that will then go into the OS. Shell.h. But the specific shell that I'm trying to create is also this one. Which, by the way, how does the operating system do it? Wait, by the way, I found out something cool about KDE. You can do this. I did not know you could do this. I'm new to KDE, so that's why I didn't know you could do this, but you can. Cool, anyway, when you create a new shell in the existing terminal, you call this with a series of bindings. These bindings, which is what I will need to do because the shell, of course, has these kinds of bindings. All right. Use said AI but not use AI. What does that mean? All right. Interestingly enough, I may be able to move flush out of the console. Not sure why that's there, but it should be good to do this. Now clean. These are bindings that the shell is going to call these functions whenever it needs to do specific things, right? This to write a character, this to clean everything, this to ring a bell. this when it receives an ASCII command, like Control C, for example, and this to be able to quit, because sometimes the shell can control the terminal, like when you do exit, or Q in mine actually. It's supposed to do what I just did there. Close each buffer until you close the entire terminal in the last one. Right, so I'm going to need to create functions for those, which look like this. Clear a shell, like this. Flush, again, I don't think I need it. Bell, ASCII command, and console control. Just gonna copy your signatures real quick. And then going to... Whoop. Alright, so it's going to map to those functions. And then all I need to do is to Sheldon create with the bindings that I have here, terminal bindings, and register built-ins. The shell has some built-in functions, which are actually exposing functions of this library to the shell, and this is going to power a lot of the scripting, mind you, so it is necessary here for me to remember where that comes from. It doesn't have built-ins right now. Does it? It works. It has built-ins. Ah, wait, I'm pretty sure this is for registering extra built-in functions. It has a default, okay. If you put 0, it's a default. Okay, so I want that for now. Wrong code base. Alright, so I don't want to register anything custom right now. Or at all, really. This is actually a terminal shell, so... the built-in functions are the same ones. ls, cd, pwd, I believe it also has a few. Anyway, I wanted to use those. Alright, so that should create a shell, and this gives me a shell handle. Now, the shell handle... Oh, I need to consider how to do this. Because the shell uses these functions, which return the shell handle, right, to write a character and whatnot. But I need to map them to this object. Now, this object has a reference to the shell handle, but the shell handle doesn't have a reference to this object. So, how do I handle that? How do I handle that? What the hell was that? I don't want to have to look up which buffer am I currently working on in this shell, like... I just don't think there's anything I can do. Let me see. The shell handle contains... Yeah, why do you always jump to this forward declaration? That's so annoying. Anyway, it has a buffer, an out buffer. Then the bindings that it works with. Then a common context shared between all the shells, which is pretty much just the current directory that you're in right now, but it's going to be more stuff probably, like environment variables. No, those are actually... Okay, so common context is shared between any kind of shell. Whether you're using mine or bash or something else. Why would you use bash? Don't use bash. But anyway, yeah, whether you're using that, it has this context. And then each individual shell has its own local context. I don't want to have to add another context just to point to who owns the shell. Although maybe that's the fastest way to do this. Just move on, man. Who created the shell can give the shell handler an owner if they so wish. It's the easiest way to handle this thing. Hello, Blurry Square. Feel coming. Alright, so handle owner is going to point, so this is kind of a circular... Both are pointing to each other, but we don't have reference counting, so who's counting? That's not a problem. Shell handle is pointing to the source type shell, and the source type shell is pointing to the shell handle. Actually, no, it's not. So let me make it do that real quick. Now it is. Right, so this is pointing to this, and this is pointing to this. But we don't have reference counting, so we're allowed to do that. And now I can get the buffer context here, 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 and here by accessing the shell's owner. Like that. Now I have control of the buffer. Right. Hello, Jazz Rabbit. We're adding scripting. Well, first off, we're adding a shell to a text editor, and then we're using that to make a terminal, and then we're adding scripting to the terminal. And I'm doing all that to deprecate the existing terminal, which is, by the way, a half-finished version of an old terminal that I also already deprecated. Now, I feel like that's kind of crazy. Is it work language or is it what? I don't understand the question. Anyway, let's see. If I'm not mistaken, the shell, first thing it does is print out Sheldon, its name. So, to do that, it does put char, and to do that, we are going to take the buffer contexts buffer and write a character there. So pretty much just buffer write limited into the buffer contexts buffer. We're going to write, this is a hack. Technically, we're going to write one character from here, which essentially turns it into a string. But strings are just pointers to a char, assuming that you're going to continue reading chars sequentially until you reach a null pointer, because C works like that. So I'm not wrong in casting a character to a string by doing this. I mean, I would be wrong if I wasn't explicitly limiting it to one character. But it is kind of a cursed way of doing character to string. I have to admit that much. Anyway, I don't believe we need a flush. So it should be enough to do this. And then go into here and create a shell source instead of a file source. Undefined reference to send signal and system focus. Right. These are functions that only exist inside of my operating system right now. By the way, quick reminder that I have a syscall to be called in case you use JavaScript in my system, or in any of my code, really. This is it. It just prints that and panics. Panics the system, halts the current program if we're in cross-platform, which we are right now. I believe that every program could benefit from having something like this, by the way. We wouldn't be in the mess we're in. I can tell you that much. Anyway, I need to add these syscalls now. So send signal. And system focus. Need to declare these two. Now system focus is just a call to system. The system syscall that runs a command. It's just a wrapper around that to specify the focus mode, whether the input of the system is given to the new command that you're running or it remains within the existing one. It's an exec syscall pretty much. And then send signal, probably just gonna say this is not implemented. We don't really send signals. That's not really a thing that we do. This terminal probably won't super work in cross-platform, but... Oh god, it needs more. Send signal. Oh wait, I'm just not recompiling the library. There's more though. Multiple definitions of isMod pressed. What? Modifier. Oh. Yeah, this is supposed to be a static inline function. This is why Z is absolutely ridiculous, man. The last command I ran was red build. I've been running that command for a long time to build and run my project. Why then I press the arrow key up to get the latest command that I ran and I get echo hello, which I didn't even run within the shell, mind you. I ran within a normal terminal. It just deleted my history? It's not here anymore? Hello? Now it crashes. Okay, that's not good. But yeah, Z is actively breaking before our very eyes, by the way. Happens way too much, I have to say. It's ridiculous how much this thing breaks. Now, is this thing maybe the shell is not really prepared? Yeah, I feel like that's it. Slight feeling that maybe the shell is not supposed to work this way or something. I don't know. Did that work? Oh, no, okay. So it's something else. The error is something else. Did I maybe not initialize this buffer? I am initializing this buffer, actually, yeah. I'm only giving it 256 bytes of memory, but I am initializing it. And I am initializing this object by putting the handle owner's value to this one. So that should work, I feel like, but shell is handle, and then the next one that I want is the handle's owner. I want to make sure that those two are valid values. No, the owner is not valid. Oh, then why did I set it? I'm sorry, I'm confused. I set it. It's... Is it... Is it not the same object that I'm sending it to? That I'm setting it to, I mean? Oh, it's worse. Oh, it's worse. Oh, it's worse. It is worse. I am setting it here, but this is being called here. So, Sheldon, honey, it's a problem. You're going to have to specify who your owner is. I'm gonna have to do it in here. That way, yeah, this is the function that's actually calling put char for the first time, and at that point the owner has not been set, so I need to set it here. Eh. Right, I need to actually update the function signature now to point to this one as its owner. And you no longer need to do this. Zed, you ridiculous code editor. I swear to God, this thing is actively breaking. Every time I use it, something changes. And breaks, and it works worse. It's the same issue that I was having with my operating system. You know, when I said that the stack was corrupting memory and also reading uncorrupted memory because I gave it the wrong pointer to the stack. That whole thing I explained earlier. That was causing a lot of really ridiculous bugs coming out of seemingly nowhere. This is what Zed feels like nowadays, except there is a reason why this is happening. That's vibe coding. For the love of God. Like, if I open this thing, why am I not focused in it? Why did it randomly wipe my history just now? Alright, that is pointing to the correct place. But it still isn't printing anything. I need to refresh. Oh shit. I need to refresh the UI library, but even that didn't work. Oh wait, that's funny. Oh, I don't actually need to refresh the UI library, okay. I was thinking I would need to bring the flush function back, but I don't need it. There we have it. Sheldon. Now, can't run the OS because that change that I just made to add the owner type to Sheldon will mean that you can't really run the existing terminal anymore. I'm just gonna run without building. But now they very much look the same to me. Now you can see why I'm replacing the terminal with a text editor. Though, again, I do allow you to edit the output if you want. I literally don't care what you do. I want it all to be 4 characters, because, yeah. Like, if you want to edit the output of your terminal, go ahead. And Plan 9 lets you do it. I always found that weird. I've seen it in a lot of, like, experimental operating systems. They just, like, let you edit the output of the terminal for some reason. I don't know if that's just, like, something that they never ended up limiting, or if that's just the way that it works, but yeah, they do it, and I don't really have anything against that. If I do, I'll just prevent you from doing it. Like, that's fine. I can also do that. Literally just add a new property to this text info thing. Editable false. It doesn't exist, so I can't do that, but There you go. If I don't want you to edit the output of your terminal, that's it. Look. Right. So, if I'm not mistaken, there is a shell. Hold on. How does the existing terminal handle input? Need to remember that. Wait. I completely forgot. I can rebuild the operating system because it's using the same library, but it's using a submodule of the same library. So technically, it can work off two different versions. I literally did it for that same reason. Okay, how do you handle input? Maybe I could have searched for something a little bit more. Handle input. It's literally called handle input. Run command calls this run command, which comes from the shell. Okay, so that's what I need to do as well. You're leaving? You're supposed to be a prop. Get back there. Good. You're literally the only decoration I have behind me. It sucks that I have to sit here because like the only slightly interesting stuff happening in this room is literally all behind me. So you can't see it. Well, besides him, of course. Which is why he needs to stay. Anyway, is there something called run command? This is where scripting finally comes in. If I could remember, open the command buffer, close the command buffer, handle the command. Okay, here. Okay, so handle command, I hard-coded it. It's this little mini buffer, this little thing here. I hard-coded it to only have one functionality so far. You write a path, and it opens that file into the current buffer. That will no longer work. Pretty sure it might even crash the program. Well, that's embarrassing. I just replaced my shell with that. My shell output with this. Mind you, it's still controlled by the shell. I just replaced the output with this. And the reason that that worked is that it kind of assumes that the type is a file, but it never checks that the type is a file. And the shell has a buffer source, a buffer, and then a shell handle, and the file type has a buffer source, a buffer, and then a string. So yeah, this probably never got set. That probably fucked something up in memory when it tried to write a string here in this pointer. But besides that, it was able to write to the buffer because it's in the exact same place in both types. And this is why types are important. This is why this and this are two different types. I need to have some way of knowing that. So that's why register source type is a thing. So shell type start at 0, right? And if no shell type, then shell type equals to register source type. And you will specify that this thing is of this type that you just registered. The reason I'm doing this register source type is so that I can have plugins to this editor have their own type, their own way of handling the text buffer, essentially. The text editor provides you text buffers, and then these sources, is what I'm calling them, provide the functionality. Right. Each of the sources has a type, and we register the source type to know what ID we've been given. All right. Which, by the way, we should probably make an external variable shell type, so we can reference this from outside as well. Do the same thing here. Hello, Kayal, how you been? Extern int file type. File type ID. See, this is such a misleading name. Oh my god. Already source file was misleading because I'm not talking about source files. It's just the program that provides the functionality to the buffer is called a source. And this one shows you a file. So source file. And now file ID. They're not what they sound like. I need to come up with a I probably will need to change this from file to something else. Because it's very, very, very weird when you put it like that. But anyway, that does mean that I need to make this one ID as well. ID, not int. Starts at 0, and if it hasn't been assigned, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to register with the code editor. This is a new source type, and we're going to do so by telling it we have a new source type, give us an ID, and then whenever we create our little context object, we are going to mark it with our type. Cool. So now really this whole thing should go for opening files. Is there anything here, any code that I deem to be valuable? Not really, not at all. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of all of it. What we're gonna be doing is we've had a command written. A command has been written, right? Into the input buffer, which is this thing over here. Depending on where we're currently working... No, actually, how should I handle this? Because when the buffer is a shell, it needs to forward it to the buffer for it to handle. But when it's not, it needs to handle it itself. By the way, we are adding the same exact scripting functionality to the shell and to the text editor, but we're doing it separately. There's technically two. So yeah, I think I need to check the buffer source. And if the buffer source is the shell type, then we forward the command to the shell. Otherwise, let's say instead of else. Wow, amazing. Otherwise, what we're going to do is... Yeah, that whole thing is being rewritten, so who cares? Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to handle the command in the text editor's own shell. The text editor will have its own shell separate from the ones that you can create in the buffers that it can use. That's going to be used for scripting. Right. So I don't have one yet. I don't really need it. What I need to do is this. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to create a functionality for the shell. Let me standardize it even more. Standardize it even more. Void command handler. string slice command. Now, when the mini buffer, I don't want to call it a mini buffer, I call it a command buffer. When the command buffer receives the command, first it's going to check the current buffer that's selected. Does it have one of these command handlers? If so, it handles it. Otherwise, I handle it. There we go. We're no longer hard-coding it to use the shell source. The type is not even that important at the end of the day. So yeah, the check that you do is, does it have a command handler? If it has a command handler, then you just call the command handler with the command that we've been given. Boom. My work for the shell, as I implemented it, a different implementation, or any other program that needs to handle the input itself. Otherwise, handle it in the text editor's own shell. Okay. Are we good then? No, because we don't have a command handler. What is our command handler going to look like? It's going to be called shell handle command. It also needs to know which shell is being called, so we need to modify the signature to include that. With a context. And when we call it, of course, we need to pass the context. That way, you know, we know who's calling. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get the buffer context shell handle, and there we're going to not do that. We're going to call run command on the shell handle using the command that we were given. It should really be that simple. It is not. It is. It is that simple. It worked. It printed hello, which is a echo is a built-in function of this thing. It just didn't print here. By the way, GLFW, why is that working different the second time around? I had to say I've struggled a lot with GLFW on Mac, and I haven't even gotten around to fixing it, making it work like I want to on Linux. I don't even know what it looks like on Windows. Jesus Christ, I don't want to know what it looks like on Windows. Anyway, what was the problem? Right. So the shell never prints this hello. It prints shell-on, and then it never prints hello. What do you need to do to run it on bare metal? The operating system, you mean? Some PCIe fixes for the Raspberry Pi 3 and 5, and some interrupt fixes for the 3. It technically runs, it just doesn't have all the features. I just haven't done much with it, but now that I have these things, like file system and user space, I'm going to use that to build a distributed file system. I already have networking, and now I'm adding scripting. So with those three things, I'm going to finally need to run it on bare metal, because it's gonna start becoming more stable. Hopefully, anyway. I mean, literally like 3 hours ago, the system was crashing left and right, so. It's a relative term. Anyway, it didn't even try to print. Although, is there a reason for that? Is there a reason you didn't work? Because that did work, technically. It called this function, which is creating a lot of... This is actually like capable of running certain processes, by the way. Wait. It tries to run a built-in function. And if it cannot run a built-in function, it will try to call a process. Any process. As long as the system allows you to execute it. What process should I try to execute? ls cd cat. I don't have modifiers, so I have to do home d brain code brain.sync. It actually ran. Holy shit, that was really fast. That was really easy. Oh wow. So it turns out it's really, really easy for my terminal to run commands. Like built-in commands. It's that easy. I just ran cat. It just doesn't print here. But it's literally that easy. I genuinely hadn't thought. It literally is just running a process. So it really is that easy to just have a full terminal in this thing. If only it was printing the thing that it's supposed to be printing. That really sucks that it's not printing, but yeah. It did work. I can run any command I want from this terminal already. It's really funny how easy that was. It's really, really funny how easy that was. However, why could it not be printing? There's a shell print specify new line. That's the one that's actually doing the printing. What is it doing? It's writing to the output buffer of the hand. Oh, wait. The shell itself has a buffer. Oh, this might be even easier than I thought. I might not even need this function. What buffer do you map to? Well, that's the shell's output buffer. Got it. I think it works. Well, I'm not entirely sure. Let me remove this put char function. I don't think it does work. It does work. Oh my god. It's literally that easy. Automatically map the buffer of the shell to the UI library. And then cat no such file or directory. Failed to open process state. Yeah, that's fine, but none of this printed. None of this printed. That really sucks. So I can run commands. I can run any command I want. It just doesn't print on there. That's the problem I have with it. It prints here, but not here. That's so frustrating. Unless I do need a flush function. Which I can copy from the other one. Make it refresh the UI library in here. Call it just flush. Pass it in here. And does it work? No. Still no. Is any of this being called? This one's not being called. But this one? No, also no. Nothing's being called. "58 lines. The products are very well developed." What? Oh. Okay, yeah, it doesn't have 58 lines anymore, but to be fair, this is just one file. And everything else is already written. I'm just gluing stuff together and not doing an amazing job of it. No, it's actually going well. I don't know what I'm talking about. It is working well. Just this isn't working. Could it be? Literally just that. No, print does print to the console. Current shell print. Oh, but it's not the current shell. It's not the current shell. Ah, it's not the current shell. So prints never get put in here. I mean, it's a bit of a mess, honestly. This whole current shell affair I don't even understand what's going on right now. But just in case, current shell to handle. Let's try that. And then try. I still don't remember the keystroke to open this thing, by the way. That didn't work still. Am I creating a shell? I'm not creating a shell. I'm plugging the shell into essentially a new terminal, which is totally not a text editor repurposed. Definitely not a text editor with a fresh coat of paint. Actually, not even a fresh coat of paint. It can change colors. Not anymore. That broke. Oh. No, why did that break? No, actually, what the hell? Why did that break? Alt Enter is supposed to change colors. Ah, but all the input. Wasn't? When did this break? At the beginning of the stream, I made... Why do I have 3 cursors? Zed, I'm terrified of you. Oh my god, this editor. Oh my god. It is so broken. And you want to know the worst part? I realized Zed would start breaking soon. So I turned off auto update a while ago. And regardless of that, Zed is actively breaking before my eyes. Why did I suddenly have 3 editors there? Three why did I have all this selected when all I tried to select was this? Anyway, let me try T. I don't know, some random key. Alt T does not work. The input is being given to this instead for some reason. I don't understand why. Modifiers should still work. They don't work anymore. Oh god. It's probably because of that isMod pressed function that I made static inline. Not sure how it affects things, but it does. I'm not sure how I did that, but it broke everything. Um, I don't know how adding static inline to this function broke seemingly everything. No, it's not that. It's not that. So when did it break? Because now I can't do control arrow keys to open new buffers, which I used to be able to do before. Absolutely broken, and I have no idea why. What did I even change that could have possibly broken it this badly? I've made changes all over the place, but none of them should have broken the input system, where I literally added something earlier today, so it did work. That's really annoying. Is it that everything is now being handled by the UI library? No, because it handles that. It reads those keys. It knows when I'm not handling a modifier. I don't know, something's very, very broken right now in the input system, and I don't really know what it is. Like, I have zero clue what it is. Because it's the one thing that I added something and it worked, and that's it. I shouldn't have broken anything else. The input to the UI library only gets given when all of these fail. So I really don't understand. It just completely stopped handling modifiers now. Why do I feel like the same thing happened last time I tried doing this? Pretty sure because it did. Okay, something broke so badly that even returning to when it did work doesn't work anymore. I am at a loss for what's happening right now. Um, there's no other changes in this. Just to be clear, this is static. This should be static, but it's not changing the behavior. Lost completely as to what's happening right now. But apparently modifiers are broken now. Okay. Which means I can't use them at all? Did I change anything related to... I didn't change anything related to this. That's what's really weird about it. If I had made some changes related to it, I would be like, okay, that's the problem. But clearly that's not the problem? What are you... What? Uh... Let me recompile this library just in case something's really off. Okay, now it has multiple definitions of is mod pressed. Alright. So that error wasn't there before. Now where's the file? Keyboard helper, here it is. Alright, so rebuild the entire thing. Now clean it and rebuild it. And then build this. Current modifier is 0. What in the genuine nonsense is going on in the YouTube chat? I swear to God. Jesus Christ. The only times I ever have to moderate chat, it's YouTube. Anyway. I'm at a genuine loss here. Is marking the function static or inline somehow breaking it? That should not be the case. Wait, I did it the other way around. Maybe the variables should be changing, sure. But they were already static and they were working fine. But now it just doesn't recognize modifiers anymore. Wouldn't be one of my streams without some ridiculous fucking behavior that just derails everything. I'm just gonna move on and I'm just not gonna have any modifiers, I guess. What a disgusting error, Jesus Christ. It's stupid. And I also don't have any output to the terminal, which is also not helping. Well. Anyway. Alright, so I'm running a command. The command is a built-in, which is specifically echo. Echo is just a call to print print line. It's a built-in. Here, echo. It is a built-in, which means there is a forward one argument. Alright, you call print L. No, just print, not even print L. You call print. I see, okay. Calling echo internally just calls this library's print function. This library's print function is defined here. Oh shit, okay. Oh my god. That's so stupid. If not cross, then do this. Okay, I cannot type anymore. Oh wait, I actually disabled that. My bad. Okay, I'm freaked out by this error. It's such a ridiculous thing. It still didn't print. Oh god. I figured it would. But anyway. So calling print will format a string, call print L, which actually outputs it to the console, and then call current shell print. If there is a current shell, it is going to print to that current shell. Which there is, by the way. The shell should exist, as far as I know. And then it will just write to the output buffer. And then if it has a console output, it will write to that output. But in this case, it doesn't have a console output, it just outputs directly to this buffer. The out buffer of the handle is the one that the UI is mapped to. Right, so that shouldn't be a problem. The out buffer, the UI library is mapped to that. But I can give you a put char, just in case that helps somehow. It does not. Oh, wait, no. No, it didn't work. It didn't work. It's just a current modifier print. And plush, let me guess, also didn't work. I want to finish this before I end the stream, but it's... Do I want to try GDB? No, but I'm gonna. I forgot GDB does not start being stopped already, so... Can I do it like this? No. Can I just do GDB? And then tell you to load Or file, is it? It was file. File brain.elf. Alright. And then I should be able to tell you to put a breakpoint on run command. Alright, and then I should be able to tell you to continue. The program is not being run. Okay, so run the damn thing. There we go. Echo hello. There we go. Alright, do we have command input? Now I should be able to enable a TUI. Which of course is not a straightforward thing. TUI enable. So I can look at what's happening here. Alright. Step into this. So this is running the command. The TUI just completely broke. Okay. Anyway. Am I outside of my function now? How did that happen? Oh, for fuck's sake, I lost it. Ah, wonderful. I actually did not see what happened there. If only this program wasn't so obnoxious to use. Alright, so TUI enable. Now, go into this. Next. 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 Control functions. What are control? Oh, right. There's two built-in functions which are exit and queue to exit the current shell. That shouldn't be the case. So we're going to go into a built-in. That is the function actually being called. Finish that one. Step in. Okay. Do we have a handle? We have a handle. Do we have a handle's local context? We have a local context. So moving on. Check the built-ins. Find the one that you're looking for. Does it exist? Yes. Does it have arguments? Yes. All right. So it's going to run the function. And this I want to step into. That's the function. It's a macro, so it's not going to be super easy to see. Step into. Finish. That didn't finish. Alright, step into the next one. Print. Alright. So next, 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 next. Skip that part. Where are we right now? What just happened? Why does it look like this? Where am I right now? I have no idea what happened. Isn't that amazing? Isn't GDB amazing? The moment I got to where I wanted to be, it broke. Fucking love this shit. Oh my god, I hate this thing. Let's try one more time. This is for people who tell me, why don't you just use GDB? Just use GDB, just use GDB. This is what GDB is like. It does not fucking work. It worked until it needed to work. Alright, from brain.elf. Alright, put a breakpoint on print. So I'm not doing all that again. Go. Alright, we're in print. Next. next, 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 return 0. Am I stupid or did I not recompile this part? Is that literally what's happening? Because what I'm seeing here is not what I'm seeing here, so... If that's it, I swear to God. Well, I get to end the stream, so I don't care. Well, that crashed. Which, yeah. It crashed because it tried to print. Well, that's good news, actually. Because that means that this and this are printing. Oh, there you have it. Just comment that out real quick. Try that again. There's this really beautiful thing that's been happening while streaming lately, which is that some ridiculous bug comes along, completely derails the entire stream, ruins my mood, and by the time that I finally get what I was trying to do, I don't even care anymore. I'm tired. And no matter how much bug fixing and refactoring I've done, this just keeps happening. But anyway, there it is. Isn't that amazing? Now I got a shell going in the fucking terminal. Wow, isn't that amazing? Isn't that so great? I guess it works. And the best part is I did not get to work on the actual scripting today, but that was kinda to be expected. Because there is a lot of stuff to do. But the good news is... Shit, hold on. Now I want to see this properly. That didn't work. Oh, well, the reason that... Yeah. The reason that didn't work is my shell is programmed to read output from my system, in which output works in a specific way. Whereas standard output in libc and in, Linux and whatnot works in a completely different way. So it was never able to pick up on this. But it ran a command. It can run commands, it just cannot show you what those commands are doing. And frankly, it's gonna need to have some special what is it called? I'm gonna add a to-do because I don't feel like adding this today or ever, to be honest, but I'm gonna add a to-do. Capture std out for cross. Alright, so if we're in cross-platform, then we won't have to do this whole thing. We'll have to capture std out and read that as the output and put that in the shell. But it's going to be really, really easy to run existing commands as long as we're working in cross-platform. But more and more I'm going to be adding my own commands to this thing and to the operating system. Okay, so I didn't get to add shell scripting today because I needed to add the shell itself first. But, by the way, I still feel like my microphone is clipping, even though people said it was fine. Feels like it's clipping a little bit. Even though I don't understand what I can possibly do to not make it clip anymore. Like, alright, maybe that, or that is too low. I'm just gonna keep it like I was before. Whatever. Alright, yeah, I didn't get to add scripting today, unfortunately. I needed to add the shell that we're gonna add scripting to. And then the same thing is going to work with the text editor scripting. So I'm gonna do that tomorrow. Tomorrow, hold on, you know what? I don't have anything to do tomorrow. So real quick, let me check the weather. Alright, so tomorrow, it's not loading the weather. I'm going to decide if I'm going to stream in the afternoon or the evening based on the temperatures. It actually gets hotter in the evening than the afternoon, somehow. But tomorrow, apparently, there will be very manageable temperatures. So, okay, tomorrow I'm streaming in the afternoon. Tomorrow I'm streaming at my usual 3 p.m. time. I'm actually adding scripting. Didn't get to that today. I'm hoping the fucking modifier thing, like, fixes itself somehow, because I am done dealing with ridiculous bugs that come out of nowhere and derail everything that I'm doing. It's so often that this happens. And it really just, like, completely derails you. That's the big problem. You're working on one thing, you're almost done with the thing. Oh, there's a stupid bug. Like stupid, like actually stupid bug. Good luck. Anyway. Yeah, I'm done for now. Tomorrow I'm adding scripting. For real this time. And hopefully the modifier will work. I will see you then.